Have you ever stopped to think about the invisible rules that are running in the background of every single thing you buy? I mean, from your morning coffee to a huge corporate deal, there's this hidden legal framework that's always at play. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and decode that secret language of business.
Okay, so let's just dive right in with a simple question. You go out and buy a brand new laptop. Is that just you doing some personal shopping, or is it a commercial act? Well, legally speaking, the answer completely changes based on why you bought it. And figuring out that why, well, that's what we're here to do today.
You see, it all boils down to a really fundamental split in the law. Every transaction you can think of falls into one of two big buckets. You've got civil acts, which are basically for our personal lives, and then you have commercial acts, which are governed by the rules of business. But, and this is where it gets interesting, even inside the world of commerce, things get way more specific.
So on one hand, you have what are called isolated acts. These are things that are commercial, even if you only do them one time. But on the other hand, and this is going to be our main focus, are acts that are commercial because they're done professionally. We're talking about a structured, repetitive, profit-seeking business.
To really see this professionalism principle in action, let's follow a budding entrepreneur as she kind of figures out this whole world. So, let's meet Alex.
So this is Alex. She's awesome at baking, and she's turning that passion into a real business by opening a specialty bakery. Every single day, when she buys flour in huge quantities, bakes dozens and dozens of cakes, and sells them to her customers, she is performing what the law calls commercial acts by professionalism. These are the absolute core activities of her business.
So what is it that makes Alex's baking professional in a legal sense? I mean, it's not just that she's good with a rolling pin. The law is actually looking for a few key ingredients. She does it over and over again, she's organized her bakery as a proper business, she's taking a financial risk, and, this is the big one, her goal is to make a profit. It's that whole combination that defines her work as a commercial enterprise.
And this principle, it goes way, way beyond bakeries. The world of commerce is just massive. Think about the financial and service industries for a second. Every time you use your bank, or buy an insurance policy, or see a company sign a supply contract, yep, those are all professional commercial acts. They're basically the gears that keep our entire economy turning.
And the list just keeps going, covering stuff we interact with every single day. The hotel you stay in on vacation, the bus you ride to work, the company that built your apartment building, even the station that's broadcasting this right now. They're all engaged in professional commercial acts. In fact, the law lays out 16 specific categories that touch pretty much every part of modern life.
Okay, now we get to what I think is a truly cool legal idea. It's a rule that acts like a domino effect, changing the whole identity of an action just based on its connection to a business. It's called the by accessory rule. So here's the core idea. An act that is normally civil, something you do in your personal life, can literally transform into a commercial act. So how does that happen? It's simple. Just by being connected to a business or by being done by a business owner for the needs of their business.
Let's go back to Alex. This makes it crystal clear. If she buys a van to take her family on trips, that's a straightforward civil act. No big deal. But if she buys that exact same van to deliver cakes for her bakery, boom, the purchase instantly becomes a commercial act by accessory. The act itself is identical, but the purpose behind it changes absolutely everything in the eyes of the law.
So you might be wondering, how does the law actually decide when this flip happens? Well, it uses a pretty simple two-part test. First, the person doing the thing has to be a merchant, like Alex, or the act has to be clearly linked to a commercial activity. And second, the act has to be for the needs of the business. If you check both those boxes, that civil act becomes commercial.
Now this is where the law gets really efficient. It has this powerful shortcut built right in. It presumes that pretty much anything a business owner does is for their business. So if Alex buys a computer, the law just assumes it's for the bakery. The burden of proof is actually on her to show it was for personal use. This little assumption is what keeps business moving fast and avoids getting bogged down in legal arguments.
But hey, just when you think you've got the rules all figured out, the law throws in some fascinating exceptions. That whole domino effect we just talked about, it can actually work in reverse, where something that looks totally commercial stays civil.
Okay, take a farmer for example. When they sell the crops they grew on their own land, that act of selling, which really looks commercial, right, is considered a civil act. So why is that? Because it's an accessory to their main job, which is the civil profession of farming. But if that same farmer starts buying crops from their neighbors just to resell them at the market,
Well, they've crossed the line. That becomes a commercial act because now it involves speculation, profiting from buying and selling goods, not just from what they produce themselves.
And all of this leads us to the most common situation you're ever going to find yourself in, the mixed act. This is what's happening almost every single time you, as a regular customer, interact with a business. You're both part of the same transaction, but you're each playing by a totally different set of legal rules.
Let's bring it back to Alex's Bakery one last time to make this super clear. When you walk in and buy a delicious cake, that single purchase exists in two legal universes at the exact same time. For Alex, the merchant, selling that cake is a commercial act. It's her business. But for you, the customer who's just buying it for a birthday party, it's a civil act. Same transaction, completely different rules.
So after all these different labels, professional, accessory, mixed, you're probably asking yourself, why does any of this even matter? Why does it have to be so complicated? Well, it turns out this whole framework is like the invisible operating system that powers all of modern commerce.
At the end of the day, these rules create order and make things predictable. They group all of a merchant's activities under one set of laws, which is great for protecting credit and just speeding up business in general. They give us clear guidelines for when there are disputes, and they do a really good job of balancing the needs of fast-paced business with the protections that ordinary people need. It's really a system designed for both speed and fairness.
And that's our look at the hidden rules of business. The next time you grab a coffee, stream a movie, or even just hop on the bus, take a second to think about that legal world that's humming along just beneath the surface. Now that you know the rules, you're going to start seeing these commercial acts absolutely everywhere. So, how many do you think you'll be a part of today?